Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, friends of ESPON, all of you who are interested in territorial research, territorial development, and territorial policies. My name is Wiktor Szydarowski. I'm the director of ESPON EGTC, and I'm privileged to lead the implementation of the ESPON program. The ESPON program is dedicated to provide the latest data, the latest evidence, the latest facts that inform the policies, so that the policies respond better to the expectations of the people on the ground and also reflect in a proper way the territorial trends, the territorial challenges, but also threats and risks. And we are here today on this bright sunny day to debate challenges at the northeast external borders of the EU. Once upon a time, we received a request from stakeholders who were expressing their interest in knowing how to reinvent themselves, how to prepare their territories for the challenges, the shocks, the crises related to the new geopolitical situation after the war in Ukraine erupted. And they asked us, would you as ESPON be available? Would you be interested? And would you be competent enough also to support us in our pathway to the reorientated future? And I do hope that the event today will prove that we manage to cope with the challenge and that we provided you with very interesting research findings. This event is going to be dedicated to the discussion on, well, the context of the development of the border regions, but also to the economic and social consequences of the crisis that has been developing as we speak. And, well, the purpose also is to involve the audience that we are hosting predominantly online in discussing the findings and the policy implications. So we have the possibility for the audience to engage through the Slido. You can either get access to Slido via the QR code that is available on the screen as we speak. But also you could go to the Slido website and then use the code ESPON in order to get through and ask questions to the panelists. Through the day, we are going to debate the different aspects of developments. And in this first session that I'm privileged to moderate, we'll be presenting key territorial findings and the adaptability for policies in the collaborating border regions and beyond. With me, I have very distinguished panelists today. Let us start with Sandra Spule, who is with Spatial Foresight. And Sandra has been the lead of consultancy consortium that help us develop and deliver very interesting territorial evidence. Sandra is a seasoned policy advisor with more than 25 years of experience, and you've been evaluating tools for cohesion, territorial cooperation, and also business support policies along the EU's eastern border. And of course, you also come from the specific part of the world and Europe, so we have a lot of trust in your competence. Then we have also Kirsi Vaino, who is the development director, the Regional Council of South Karelia. And Kirsi, you are responsible for regional development, land use planning, also cultural well-being in South Karelia. And we know these less perceptive aspects of development are at least equally important for the people that live in that area, how they understand, how they perceive the risks, but also opportunities related with the developments. Anna Jaudzema is head of development planning. She was head of development planning for one of Latvia's larger municipalities, and you have extensive experience in attracting EU funding and promoting business environments. You have also huge practical experience because of your own company. And currently you work on the matters related to Latgale special development zones and regional development within the Latgale planning region. Last but not least, Meelis Kuusk, the CEO of the Association of Local Authorities of Ida-Viru County in Estonia. And your work is emphasizing the need for strengthened regional cooperation. Also, you work a lot with regional strategies, attracting investments. Joint Transition Fund has been one, very important example of your, achievements. And, you also, I think, deal a lot with how to keep the young population in the area, how then to attract and create opportunities for youth. So I do believe we're a very interesting mix of experiences, both practical, but also more administrative and more related with policymaking. Let me start this session by asking you, Sandra, for your key taking points from the research that you have been leading through quite a number of months altogether. And I do hope we'll hear about very intriguing and insightful results. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Victor. Good afternoon, everyone present in the audience here and everyone also online. It is my pleasure to briefly introduce everyone on our first findings, almost also finalized findings of the research. And let me first start also with a brief introductory of our research team, which was a consortium consisting of Spatial Foresight, a Luxembourgish-based consultancy company, for which I also led this project for. And the University of East Finland, from Finland, of course, Nordeval, a private company from Finland, which specializes in evaluations, especially cross-border cooperation programs, and the French-owned Riga-based consultancy company Safej Baltia. Let's get exactly now directly to our stakeholders of this research, and I'd like to highlight what evidence have we found in terms of what the regions have experienced as a result of Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine, as a result of closed borders, as a result of closed cross-border cooperation programs that they enjoyed for many years on the east-west borders with Russia and with Belarus. I'd like to start with a point that we were collecting evidence for the regions and what has changed in the regions, taking as a baseline year 2014. I hope everyone remembers that this was a year when Russia annexed the Crimea Peninsula. So this was the year when the first sanctions actually were imposed. And this was a year where, when these sanctions started to be felt at least at some of the involved regions. Getting then to our stakeholder regions. So first we had as a lead stakeholder South Karelia, Hiva Peiva. What we've noticed about the region, and I'm here very, very brief, we have many hundreds of pages of more analysis, is that probably if we can compare, so South Karelia out of our four stakeholder regions has suffered the most due to the effects of the war, also simply because a lot of its economy was partly based on tourist flows, on flows of goods, raw materials, etc. And certainly all of this had to be closed and reduced due to sanctions and simply due to the closed borders. Further going south, we have Ida-Virumaa, Tere päivast. Also, a region that undergoes kind of double-sided difficulties, not only because of the closed borders, but also there was a long-planned oil shale phase-out. And as a result, just transition funds have been forwarded and directed to this region, but this is giving some very early investments in green energy, industrial upgrades, and we can see a slight boost of productivity, but this is still a lot fragile and probably is not sufficient to totally replace the lost opportunities. And especially I would also like to note the port of Sillamäe, which also in the region and had for decades built its infrastructure to work as a transit port for a lot of goods, a lot of raw materials coming from Russia. Labadina, Latgale, our Latvian stakeholder region, it is one of the, let's say, most underperforming regions already historically in Latvia, with its particular charm, but the loss of population and low GDP is pre-relevant there. Although there has been, let's say, relevant support to Latgale, there are already some signs of recovery, some signs of household income increase and productivity increase in wood processing and machinery, but this is also a very, very early stages, and certainly the closed borders give another kind of fallback for the region. And as a fourth region, we had Utena. We had actually 4 municipalities from Lithuania, local municipalities, which also undergo structural challenges, but their proximity to fast-growing Vilnius region to some extent mitigates the disadvantages because it's quite easy to commute to Vilnius, etc., and there is a notable spillover effect in these regions. I'd like to touch upon also the lost cross-border cooperation programs, which I mentioned already. We see that a significant amount of almost 200 million euros has been removed from the regions, from the programs that they highly evaluated, appreciated, and they felt a high ownership for these programs because they allowed not only to cooperate, but also allowed to think of some middle-scale, medium-scale investments in infrastructure, and that we can see from figures that the stakeholders have used these opportunities a lot. And it's not only that the funding is lost, also the networks are lost, and now new networks need to be built, and these definitely take time. To wrap up quickly on the findings and moving into policy implications, we see that EU Eastern border regions are high now on the new EU Commission agenda. And our research also supports that the EU external borders need to be treated specifically, and we are proposing to considering them along the whole line from Norway down to Poland, as we also scrutinized slightly the situation with other regions, and there I can show the next visual. These regions could be considered as a functional transnational cooperation area because there are many peculiarities that they share with other backward and periphery regions in EU. Among these is aging and depopulation that you can see on a slide. So from the consequences of the war. And we consider that it is about the time to think of a tailored build program for these regions. I will just show one more visual where you can see that over the last decade, since 2014, it's only a few regions, like the capital region of Vilnius, who have succeeded in speeding up, in catching up with the rest of Europe, and even exceeding in EU averages in GDP per capita, but most of the regions are simply trying to catch up and to support this process, and as well as to make the regions now resilient to the crisis that they face every other almost year. We advocate for integrating emerging priorities in new program, in existing programs, such as security, preparedness, and remain also eligible for targeted infrastructure, thinking also of dual-use infrastructure, and consider more open up the programs for business support. And here I stop. Thank you for attention. I'm open for questions at the dedicated time.
Sandra, many thanks. Questions will be coming definitely to you and also other panelists, because there are things that unite us all about the needs and the challenges that you just described. But the partners of the project, as Poncianable study, might also have some individual needs, individual necessities that will be important for the development of your territories. Kirsi, South Karelia, I think it's important also to share among us that one of your important missions is to work on the positive narrative of development in the region. And we know that often border regions are associated with some peripheralities, some wasted or lost opportunities. So in the light of the current developments, your work is even more difficult, I would say. Could you let us know your perspective on development, the results of the Chernobyl study, and also your own work with the perception of South Karelia region? Please.
Thank you, Victor. I wanted to show you a couple of headlines that seem quite dramatic, but as you can see, we've had some high level of interest from the international media in our region. But once you take a look at those headlines, you can see that the narrative isn't that positive. But that was the situation then. And we've had very high-level visits in our region in South Karelia, which we are very happy for. And yes, a lot of attention. And as you can see, one question is, what is the mood in Finland? And do you know what all the journalists ask? They ask us, are you afraid to live here on the borderline? We have 200 kilometers of border on the with Russian Federation. Our people answer that, no, we are not afraid, but we still have concerns, not just regarding security, but also about our region's future. If we can still live here, if we have work. And that's why we need to change the narrative based on our strengths. I think it was quite easy to agree with the key findings and recommendations of the Chernobyl project. It means, in practice, promoting investments, new international partnerships, like Sandra just mentioned, that we need new partnerships. And it takes time to build those. People-to-people projects. So all our regions, we have the similar challenges, and we should be solving them together. If I think about the recommendations for South Karelia, For example, one key finding and recommendation was to encourage young people, young migrants to stay in our region. This is very crucial because we have a very good of reputation, our science university, LUT, and then our lab, University of Applied Sciences. And their strategy is to grow by attracting more international students. And our aim is, of course, to be able to so that they can feel that they are welcome in our region and they can find jobs and offer their know-how for us. And then one recommendation was to foster innovation. I think that this is very crucial because I think that the new rise of our region comes from our companies. It comes from entrepreneurships and of the interest towards entrepreneurship and of the interest to develop one's own company. But with this, I see a clear connection with our university. So this link with the university is very special. And of course, we need to prioritize investments in research and development. I think that South Karelia is a region of many potentials. For example, in terms of tourism, tourism of Finland started in Imatra in Water Rapids, and we see it as the future as well. Forest industry is in our DNA, and we intend to keep it that way in the future in terms of bioeconomy and in terms of investments. Cohesion policy is needed in the renewal process of our regional economy very much. We think that the gatekeeper role is special and it should be recognized in the MFF and in the future programs. So we support the Chanebo recommendation of a dedicated funding solution and also some funding criteria based on eastern border circumstances, for example, the length of the border. I think that we should discuss about comprehensive security, not just in terms of defense and border security, but also from the point of view of cultural well-being, from the point of view of everyday life of people living on the borderline. And at the end, I would like to thank the Chanebo team for taking the challenge, as Victor, you mentioned. And I want to send special greetings for Piera, Virpi, and Matti, if you are following this broadcast. I think that you, Chanebo team, have provided us a fact-based and solution-oriented voice for us. Thank you.
Kirsi, many thanks indeed. I sense in your intervention that you are interested to go on, so that this is not the end of the journey, but the support that you have received through the qualified eminent researchers and also us as the Espoo GTC could profit for you in the future in your further endeavors. Anna, Latgale, when you have heard Kirsi's quite important intervention regarding resilience, business opportunities, research and development, tourism, preparedness, is there something that you would disagree, or is there something that you would add to this list? What is important from the perspective of your region?
Hello to everyone. Yes, when I was listening to previous presentation, and actually during all the previous sessions, I understood how similar we are, actually. But we have this one common problem, the border, and also location, remote location, and all problems connected to this. But at the same time, all regions face this problem in their own way. And we see that solutions also probably cannot be equal to everybody, all of the regions. And actually, we appreciate a lot that we were invited to participate in this project. This is one of Chernihiv regions. And not because of the professional research we've got, but also because we were brought together. That was not done before. And we were mixed in the working groups, and we had got to know each other. And this is, I think, a huge step to the new dimension to cooperation. The cooperation was not before, from the north to south, instead of the previous east-west cooperation. And Latvia faced quite unfavorable conditions preliminary, and you can just see the GDP data to compare to other Latvian regions and to the European average region. We also have unfavorable climate conditions. For example, the vegetation period is shorter, up to 24 days, to compare to other parts of Latvia. It's almost 1 month, and also less sunny days. So after the beginning of the war in Ukraine, also the usual supply chains were interrupted, and the usual market known, like a convenient market, was also closed. So the enterprises should find some kind of another way, and this cooperation will be very needed. During our working sessions, we also found out that the security and economical factors are very close to each other, and there is no economical development if no security, and if we don't have people socially, economically active in these border areas that are owning the properties, that consuming cultural, medical, educational, local services, creating working places, and wanting and ready to protect all this environment, it's very difficult to maintain the security. And as last week, the Mr. Fito said last week that the border with Russia and Belarus is not just regional border, national border. This is the border of European Union and the NATO border. These territories cannot be weak. Also, during our working session, we were provoked and challenged by the project group, and they made us imagine situations we don't want to face, and we understood that usual solutions may be not enough anymore in these geopolitical conditions. We have to do something extra, and this can be done with the help of the funds, especially tailored for the border areas, and maybe the border area can be seen as one, like Sandra said, transnational body with its own funding. But the funding should be fast and flexible, as we see how actually different we are, and it should have less bureaucracy and much simplified procedures. Our biggest challenge is the population and the aging population, and usually, very often, their experience and their qualifications don't answer the demands of the modern enterprises. So, although during last planning periods, a lot of steps were done with the contribution of the European funds to raise the quality of the vocational education. So, I think this also should be continued with the higher education and research and development and vocational education. Our biggest challenge now is to enhance, as well as our partners, to enhance the attractiveness of our region to young, new, existing specialists with the families. And it's not just the social economic factor this connected directly to our ability, to our defensive abilities. And we also need the specialists that can produce not only normal goods, but also dual-use goods. And, but we understand that we compete with other regions about these specialists. So I think we need to continue these Interact type programs, maybe instead of previous ones, with the new territories, with the structural components, with the cooperation components, and also including enterprise as a target group without usual state aid regulations. Thank you.
Anna, many thanks. Usual solutions, not enough anymore. And I think this is very important to take with us. And I would like now to turn to Melis. I think I've heard from Anna about attracting young people, that these regions, these border regions, in an effort to reverse the trajectory and, as I said, reinvent themselves, need also to entice young, educated, skilled people, not only to stay, but also to come and work in the area. From your perspective, you are located also, as some people might say, in the corner of Europe. But is it also your perception that you see every day that people that you talk to, that you relate to, are of the very same opinion? And how to change it if this is the case?
Thank you for the opportunity, of course, to speak. And I agree with all previous speakers about the challenges we're facing. And something reminds me Michael Jackson song that we are not alone, or it's something just we all face very similar issues. And it was very nice to see when our meetings and all this through this process, just how similar challenge we're facing. Yes, Ida-Viru is located in northeast Estonian eastern border with Russia, and historically has functioned as a gateway through cultural exchange, trade, and cross-border cooperation. But today, due to sanctions and the war in Ukraine, border closures, region has become a gatekeeper, and bearing the new geopolitical, economic, and social burdens. The external border is not just a line on the map. It's lived by the people whose access, safety, and the livelihoods has been disrupted. Ida-Viru faces a triple demographic challenge at the moment, just population declining, aging, and youth out-migration. The closure of border cooperation has deepened its isolation, and we really need to attract young talent to create new jobs and transform and diversify our economy. Just since 2022, Ida-Viru has become increasingly disconnected. East-west logistics and mobility corridors have been severely disrupted, and we're in a dead-end situation at the moment, a little bit. And to restore the vitality was rethink the connectivity, not just physical, but also digital and economic. North-south corridor linking Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, border regions has become a lifeline for peripheral regions can become a lifeline for peripheral regions like Ida-Viru. The economy in Ida-Viru remains vulnerable. Without EU special support, there is a risk that people simply leave, and with them, the capacity to defend, develop, and transform the region. Border regions are not just vulnerable, they're also strategically valuable. And for the closing, I would like to say that we already have a good relationship thanks to the Janebo research just that we developed during this process. And I see that there is a real a readiness for our neighbors for the cross-border cooperation and targeted investments, local investments. And Ida-Viru County has a solid experience in stakeholder engagement. We have previously involved in development organizations, entrepreneurs, and the civil society to define priorities and drive meaningful change through Just Transition Fund we're implementing at the moment. Together we are working to improve quality of life and foster economic prosperity in our border communities for safer and more cohesive Europe. Thank you.
Many thanks. I'm really glad to see that we are not diverging in our perspectives, that even though our territories have different distinct characteristics of development, that you also tried and very well presented in your interventions. We have many things that keep us together. And hopefully this is not only about the cooperation spirit and the commitment you've shown through your work in the Channebo project, but also the understanding that there are the priorities that these regions are sharing among themselves. I'm particularly intrigued about how would you, in your argumentation for dedicated funding, defend the thesis about gatekeeper role. Of course, we know that many regions face a lot of difficulties, so unemployment, depopulation, aging, economic downturn, but perhaps border regions have something unique about themselves that would very much advocate for being labeled as gatekeepers. Kirsi. You have already some very good solutions, I believe. Please.
Thank you, Victor. I think if you look at the map, it's very easy to understand why these regions are different and why the gatekeeper role to NATO, to EU and Schengen is so clear that all you need to do is take the map and look at it, and you see the answer to this question. We see ourselves as living the democratic values of Europe every day, and we want to protect these values in the future as well. And at the border, we are used to living different kind of changes, and we will get through this as well. And we have solutions that we are willing to contribute for Europe, for companies. But at this point, we just need a little bit of help on the local and national, on the EU level as well.
Melis, please.
What we see is our local good people are best border guards. It's not possible to install like one border guard for every kilometer, or I don't know how often you want them, but their eyes and the ears and for the whole region, and the best first defense, I believe. And that's why providing the jobs and economic opportunities in the border regions are highly important.
Well, I agree with the previous speakers. That's absolutely right. And we understand in the emergent situation that we will be the first responders. And these regions have to be motivated and have to be actually wealthy, that people want to protect it. And now we see that actually these regions have suffered more than others out of the war in Ukraine, and the tax incomes just decreased, and now even municipalities cannot afford to pre-finance and co-finance the initiatives, and this should be tackled separately and actually with the extra effort. Thank you.
Much. I'm also looking into the Slido questions we've been receiving, and I do believe there is a question that is sort of adhering to our discussion at the moment, which is about the collaboration. All of you mentioned this is the first time you've ever met. and your first time you've ever talked to in this partnership of Chanebo, and you see potential for collaboration. But would you say this is the potential which is confined just to your territories, or do you see you can also collaborate with other EU regions to perhaps absorb some practices, some good knowledge, and also you may, in the other direction, provide them with some know-how, because you are, as you say, the gatekeepers, not just gateways. So, any declaration of collaboration already that we might see among you? Kirsi.
Thank you, Victor. I think this is all about cooperation, and I think it works best when you have shared problems, the shared needs. So it doesn't really matter if the region is like the neighbor region, the next country to your own country, but if you have the same kind of needs, then you can find very naturally the cooperation. And in South Karelia, we have already changed our strategy naturally, that we want to internationalize our own regional councils' actions, but also to promote internationalization for our universities, for our municipalities, and for our third sector organizations as well. I was listening to Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen's speech, and she said that we should listen to regions more. And I think this is a very good principle when you're talking about regional development, the place-based thinking and knowing one's own needs in the region, and then searching for the correct partners to solve these problems together.
Thank you. Sandra.
So I'd like to step in and respond and a bit reflect on what you said, Victor, what you asked, and also to a few of the questions here regarding of the territory next to the EU external border with Russia and Belarus, and possible cooperation. So we started this project. We responded to the tender opportunity on a few indicators for all regions. We decided that we look into 27 altogether, not 3-level regions, starting from Finnmark in Norway and down to Polish regions. I think some 3 regions, both with Russia and Belarus as well. So, and yes, and we just find that the problems are similar. And we also were trying to see ways how to reach out to the regions. And luckily, there was a parallel, and there's still a parallel initiative by Interreg Europe called Regio-Resilience, which is an initiative by a Polish Warmskie-Mazurskie region. That actually gathered, that invited all these regions along the border, at least to 2-3 events. And that was an excellent opportunity also for us to not only deal with our regions, but also hear what other regions are saying. And in fact, yes, this is all of them are same, but different, as we say. But they are very much same in wishing to cooperate. They see that one potential solution and one potential strength of them is to be able to have this platform to talk to each other, not only about direct investments, but just to learn how their peers are solving one or another problem. And here I have a very practical thing that I bring with me, and this is from my colleague here, Melis, that he was, for example, explaining how in Idaviru they strengthen the the civil preparedness, how they strengthen, let's say, the police, the border guard supports, with what just Melis recently said, that people themselves, volunteers, they understand that it's their responsibility. And I think it is very good, for example, to hear this in Latgale, to hear it also maybe in Lithuania. And then people on the ground there can think, oh yeah, but we can also do this. And therefore, one of our proposals, in fact, is to think about also some kind of common media platform, a platform for exchange of the ideas. Because what happens is, for example, when I watch Prime TV news in Latvia, which is my home country, I can see a reportage from Vatican of 30 minutes waiting for the new Pope to be elected, which is fine. But I'd like to hear actually more about what is going on in Ida-Viruma, how they are getting prepared. For example, not only physically infrastructure, but also mentally. And I think we would learn more and we would become stronger if we have more also options to speak among us.
Thank you very much. I would like to roll out a certain scenario that the border regions come together and postulate as someone of, you said, fast and flexible funding mechanism, triple F. Fast and flexible funding. Mm-hmm. Very often the response is yes, but please demonstrate by means of indicators that this help is really needed. And so far, we've been used to seeing hard demographic and economic indicators behind. Here we also talk about some less palpable elements related to the people's perception, how people perceive risks, emergencies, to what extent they are prepared, they are committed. How in your specific regions, territories, when you talk to the people, when you listen to the people, what's their perception of the situation? There is one question also, if you've seen that they started moving, or maybe they are not moving, but they are preparing for what might come. So, any of you would like to relate to that? Yeah, Anna, please.
I think colleagues will continue. I think the usual indicators cannot be applied anymore because the situation is absolutely not usual. It's already got urgent, actually, and absolutely new methods should be elaborated and applied. As I said, we are not just the border of our own region. And we also have border with Belarus and Russia, and so it's absolutely different kind of the neighbors we have to face, but both dangerous. And our region faced depopulation. Like Sandra, I saw in the 38%, I think, of the population we lost during last 20 years, and I think the patriots stayed, and we see that some people even come back, not so many, but we don't have something to offer them. We don't have housing to offer them. We don't have industrial plots available. So this is maybe we should look at. But we are not leaving, but we are preparing. But you never can, I think, be prepared to what Ukraine faced. And so, yeah, thank you.
Sandra?
If I may also react with some already towards concluding notes, I would like to say the following. So, and also reflecting to a few of the questions, especially on what investment priorities should there be. Well, first of all, I completely agree to what Anna says about that business as usual conventional methods, conventional supports do not quite work, and there is not only let's say a wish list, a Christmas present list for European Commission, but there are also some national homeworks most likely, and here one let's say unconventional in EU probably, but in Norway we see in Norway north regions they also introduce fiscal incentives on income taxes just to make people live there, because they understand that if people don't live in these territories, then these territories are just very easy grab for imperialistic neighbors. So I think this mindset should be changed also, let's say, at least in my home country. And another unconventional thing, and another, let's say, investment priority is more targeted business support. Because, well, I personally have studied and analyzed the previous programming periods and also this programming periods. The businesses from underperforming regions like Latgale very rarely get, when they have to get to the grants, to the loans, when they have to compete with bigger companies, with more stronger companies from central regions, from capital regions. And I think this is absolutely necessary, because if there is no business, if there is no income, well, there is nothing for people to do in the regions. And just to conclude on what you said, I like this proposal of FFF, fast, flexible funding. Yesterday we had a broader discussion in our team at Spatial Foresight and our biannual meeting, and we were a bit also kind of trying to, let's say, trying to play a role play about what the future cohesion would look like. And we agreed that maybe cohesion is already something that, well, at some stage, to some extent, it could be considered as maybe achieved. For example, in Latvia, in general, it has the average GDP has raised considerably, but that doesn't reflect so much in the regions. So what we could probably also think of maybe rebranding it to the resilience. So we basically need resilience. Well, we saw the multiple crises, COVID, war. I hope not so many ahead, but if the regions will be more resilient and prepared, I think that could be a very good aim. Thank you.
I can't resist but posing a question to Meelis as well regarding the resilience of young people and perhaps elderly people. Do you see a particular difference in the attitudes, in the perceptions of the situation between the generations? Is there any generational gap in understanding the need to brace, to prepare, and to be resilient?
Something we see, yes, in our region, that the population aging, and that there is also opportunities in the silver economy or for the elderly care, and some investments have been made in this sector also. But for the youngsters, you really need to provide opportunities through education, innovation, and to the new, like a future economies, future-proof economies. We have some initiatives in our region already. There is a coding school. It's not formal education, but informal. And within 2 years, you can become like a good coding specialist. And these skills are highly valuable and important for the region. But it's how to keep them, how to attract them. Just we have a plan. Just if we had funds or monies, just we would like to organize some sort of future leaders, like a educational program, just to teach new young leaders, and maybe 50 or 100 of them, and with a hope that 10% of them will stay in the region and help to write project and to bring them to life. And at the moment there are some opportunities, and we're working with this, and it's something. And also we like to call our region as a region for the optimists, because all pessimists have left already, and it's something, it's not for the weak.
To stay a bit optimistic also, at least in my humble view, resilient societies and communities are those that are also resilient to disinformation and fake news. How you see this challenge emerging in your border regions? I do believe that this is a challenge for the people living there. Kirsi.
Thank you. a study was conducted under the previous EU elections that Finland is quite well vaccinated against different kind of propaganda, and people have a relatively good level of media literacy, but we cannot trust this to continue for forever. But this is probably a good situation at the moment in South Korea because Finland has been preparing since the 40s. So we have long traditions of preparing, and we practice, and people are very active, and this is like a good situation at the moment. But we also have Russian-speaking minority in our region, and we want to maintain the good relations. We don't want any problems there escalating, so this is something that we need to pay focus on in the future. But I just wanted to come back to the fast, flexible funding, that I think that we need funding that will help us in our own region's needs, that we need tools that are flexible. For example, concrete actions, concrete infrastructure projects. Those are visible to people, and those make an impact. So this was just to comment the funding thing, that we also need concrete actions and concrete infrastructure.
That we see in certain sectors like tourism, like transport, definitely, like Sillamäe port, losing cargo turnover volumes, that is definitely war situation. But in the rest, that comes with a bit of a later reaction, and like in transport, in Latgal, Daugavpils is a big railway junction, and of course, if railway stops, railway cargo trains stop or reduce, they have to leave the people off of their jobs, etc. So this comes on stage very gradually, while tourism is immediately when you cross the borders. But I'd like to invite everyone just to, whenever they will be available on Espon site, to get acquainted with the results of this research, because we have produced some 13 deliverables apart from mandatory reports, with, I counted, some 500 pages, and I think it's quite a lot, but all of them try to give also a snapshot, a summary snapshot, and if there are more questions, please reach out to us, and we will be happy to respond to them.
Many thanks. I do believe we have to wrap up this session, and indeed, as you said, Sandra, well, there are many deliverables produced by your research team, and not all of them are extremely sophisticated in terms of language. So we have all for everyone, for policymakers. After a short technical break with a next section that will take up results of this one, and then discuss the matters of how to position results of the Chernobyl study in the array of other initiatives at different levels, also in particular at the European level. So many thanks indeed. Thank you, and see you very soon in the next session.
Dear participants who have come to the studio and those who are following this event online, thank you very much for your participation and welcome back to continue with our work. My name is Martín Guillermo Ramírez and I'm the Secretary General of the Association of European Border Regions. I hope you had the opportunity to exchange with other participants during the break. Perhaps you have commented about these aspects of Chanevo, which have drawn your attention after listening to the researchers and partners during the first session. We have become familiar with the main aspects of this ESPON project, its key findings, and how these can be adapted for policymaking in the participating regions, and hopefully in other territories sharing similar circumstances. In this second session, we will deeper into these territories, explore how they address the need to enhance their resilience, and examine how ESPON evidence can support these efforts. We want to engage not only those who are here today, but also our remote audience. During the session, you can send your questions through Slido, either by accessing via the QR code on the screen, or by visiting Slido on your browser, or entering the code #ESPON. With the aim of continuing to foster sustainable, inclusive, and resilient regional development for the EU regions affected by the Putin's war, we need to involve all relevant institutions in this dialogue and engage them in the discussion about possible initiatives to be implemented in light of Chanevo outputs. In this sense, we have the privilege to gather in this session an institutional representative of the lead partner, the Finnish region of South Karelia, two representatives of two member states directly affected, one of them taking part in this project, Estonia, and another one who was not, but it seems that we have drawn his attention and therefore gained strength to transfer our findings to policymakers. And then we will have the Committee of the Regions, which includes the Secretariat of the European Cross-Border Platform, gathering all networks and organizations promoting cross-border cooperation in our continent. So, dear colleagues, I have the pleasure of introducing you Satu Sikanen. Satu is the regional mayor and represents the Regional Council of South Karelia. The regional councils have a statutory role in regional development and regional planning in Finland. As the regional mayor, she leads the council's office and looks after regional interests. Satu Sikanen has a lengthy background in various regional development tasks, with a mission to build a resilient and prosperous South Karelia. Then we will listen to Julia Kilsima. Julia worked at the Estonian Ministry of the Interior from 2013 to 2014 as an advisor on Migration and Border Guard Policy Department. Then she moved to the Regional Development Department, European Territorial Cooperation Unit at the Ministry of Finance, as well as to the National Authority for the Estonia-Russia ENI program and the Estonia-Latvia-Russia EMPI program. She has continued in the same unit when this was transferred in 2023 to the Ministry of Regional Affairs and Agriculture, which is now the national responsible authority for the Estonia-Latvia Interreg and Baltic Sea region programs. She's also the coordinator of the Estonia-Latvia Intergovernmental Commission. Then we will move afterwards to the north to listen to Olaf Mildan. He's a counselor and local and regional affairs at the Norwegian mission to the EU in Brussels, seconded from the Ministry of Local and Regional Development. This is the ministry responsible for coordinating and developing the Norwegian government northern policies. His work encompasses regional and urban development, planning, housing policy, and issues related to indigenous people and minorities. He has previously worked at the Stavanger Regional Office and the EFTA Secretariat in Brussels, and is a senior advisor for regional development at the ministry. He also holds a degree from the College of Europe in Brussels. And last but not least, we will have Klaus Böhle. He works at the Secretariat of the Committee of the Regions Cotter Commission, dealing with European Territorial Cooperation, EGTCs, and the European Cross-Border Platform. Klaus has worked in public administration, dealing with regional politics, the national, European, and OECD levels. Among the various topics he has followed are education, training, culture, EU enlargement, children's rights, etc. I think there was question about that, but no more introduction from my side. Now is the time for you to listen to the very interesting contributions of our partners. So Satu, the word is yours.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to express my warm thanks to all researchers, stakeholders, partners and enablers for making Chanepo project possible. Now we have a comprehensive picture of the position and views of the regions and essential recommendation to take into account in regional development across multiple governance levels. I come from the region where the cross-border collaboration between Finland and Russia was the most extensive. In Southeast Finland, we have several border crossing points, and those were the busiest of the Finnish-Russia border. Cross-border cooperation has turned now into an iron curtain. Borders are totally closed, except some cargo trains which are still running from Russia to Finland. Instead of gateway position between East and West, now we are like a gatekeeper. We have faced uncertainty of security and economy, instrumentalization of migration, GPS interference, lost markets, lost transport chains, increased unemployment and lost development funds due to collapse of CPC programs. The impacts are very extensive in both security and economy. Both those aspects should be taken seriously in every level, from local municipalities to EU decision making. In Finland, we have long traditions of comprehensive security and preparedness issues. Comprehensive security is the basis for the resilience of society. In every circumstances across multiple governance levels, we need to ensure the vital functions. After February 2022, Finland has responded quickly to the changing security situation, and it's important that all EU and NATO members do the same. Unfortunately, we haven't seen the same action in regional development policy so far, even though socio-economical resilience is an essential part of comprehensive security, especially at the EU borders with aggressor countries. The strong borders need strong and prosperous regions. In the economical resilience, we have a lot of to do in South Karelia. We are very dependent on single industrial field and a couple of big companies which are making decisions outside of the region. In Southeast Finland, we have Europe's largest forest industry cluster, and it raises the level of GDP compared to Baltic countries. The forest industry is also taking a hit because it's been heavily dependent on Russian raw wood. However, there's still a lot of potential in high-level value-added bioproducts, and it's important to invest in research, education and innovations, and to take care of transport connections, especially railways. We should not be a logistical periphery. To build our economical resilience, we need to diversify our economies by developing especially SMEs, modernize infrastructure, build strong innovation ecosystems, enhance access to foreign investments, and connect local people and actors better to Western countries. I think Chanepo results give clear message to the European Commission that the regions sharing the border with aggressor countries need to be considered in EU cohesion policy. Nowadays, our position in cohesion policy in Southeast Finland is weak compared to other Eastern Finland, even though we are sharing the same long-standing challenges. The reason is that Southeast Finland is not a sparsely populated area like other regions in East Finland are. Our weak position is also visible on the regional aid map. My home city Lappeenranta is probably the only EU's eastern border town which is not the state aid area. The lower level of funds and grants are limiting possibilities to build resilient and prosperous region, and that's why we are underlining the similar treatment to all eastern border regions. Dear friends, Eastern border regions and authorities together with citizens living at the border are bearing an extensive responsibility of European border security. The border regions need to be lively enough to attract employees, and those should not become a close-minded periphery. Instead of Russia, new direction of international cooperation is needed among NGOs, municipalities, SMEs, and grassroots level actors among culture, sports, and other fields. We need people-to-people projects and the actions which enhance civic trust and hope to the future in the border regions. I really hope that Eastern border regions and their grassroots level needs will be taken into account when new, for example, inter-programs will be planned. In the end, I want to underline that all regions need to play with its strengths, not its weaknesses. The Chanepo report refers to a new and more positive narrative about the border regions, and I really underlined that also. In South Karelia, we have a lot of to share in clean transition, especially in bioeconomy, energy and environmental technology. Our university has been increasingly successful in Horizon funding recently, and City of Lappeenranta is one
movement in Europe to pay attention to what's going there. So I think your keywords are also very important for us. Resilience. We are not the periphery, but the region should be central for European integration. We take these takeaways home. Thanks a lot. Now we go to another very important partner of our project, which is the government of Estonia. So Julia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the floor. So first of all, I would like to extend our special thanks to Finnish colleagues for taking this initiative to bring this project idea forward with help of Espen. So I feel after the start of the project, our external border regions received so much attention, and this is so big success as well. Two very important initiatives started after that. We have now Regio Silence project supported by Interreg Europe, and as well Baltic catching up the regions with the help of World Bank. So this is very, very good news for all of us. So as we all know, the situation has drastically changed the security landscape after the Russia's war of aggression began. Not only we have to deal with the impact of being neighbors, but we also have this very big responsibility to protect our EU external border. So we must make significant investments in defense and deterrence, and unfortunately all this limits our ability to boost the economy and to support the competitiveness. So all this combination of different factors weighs heavily on our potential development, and it's not going to be better if we don't have funded supporting measures in place and like wider support as well. So in case of Estonia, as you can see, the border regions actually were already lagging behind before the war due to different long-term economic, social development challenges. So over the years, these challenges have been addressed through different policy tools by central government. Also, we received now a task from our new government to map those regional challenges arising from the location and to formulate the concrete proposals how to deal with this in coordination with regional representatives and relevant ministries. So we really also hope that Chanepo will highlight the specificities of the regions and provide the evidence on this matter, because it is very crucial to understand what those regions have undergone due to the war, and to have this comparison to other regions in the relevant countries. So a bit to reflect as well that the halting of cross-border cooperation that was mentioned in the first session had this negative impact in the border regions, and because those programs were able to address successfully broader regional needs. But one thing that we have to keep in mind that Interreg programs and NEI programs, the logic slightly differed. There were much more investments allowed, a co-financing rate was different, we had different regulation. So in Interreg, the Interreg main task should still remain the same, to link external border regions to other EU regions through the cooperation in order to avoid the isolation. So as it came as well from the Chanebo discussions between stakeholders with regions, the investments are very much needed. So combination of different funds is very crucial. And it is also one of the expectations of the Chanebo report to analyze and explore all the possibilities of the cohesion policy. So we would rather see that the current Interreg programs of all strands, you know, we have this cross-border, we have transnational, we have interregional, should deal with the new challenges in the external regions. And for instance, not to invent a bicycle, we have Baltic Sea region program already. So which could be this potential new program which will cover these issues. And we have very professional team in Rostock, so I do believe that with the help of managing authority, joint technical secretariat, and of course with monitoring committee members, we will be able to accommodate all the needs of external border regions in the post-27. And so, yeah, we also should keep in mind that this financial allocation formula for the Interreg program should have the additional element taking into account the population living in eastern border regions. So yeah, definitely it's not an end, it's a beginning of the discussions. So looking very much forward for all of this. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Julia. It is true, even within these challenges, we always pay a lot of attention to what Estonia is doing because you were pioneers on digitalization and other things. What shows that even if you have a geographical location, it's not the periphery, you are central for European integration. I think it's very interesting, your exercises to map the challenges and update them. I think we will learn a lot. And regarding Interreg, we have had a lot of discussions within the Chanebo partnership, but clearly Interreg, European programs should adapt to the reality of the regions, and it's not the regions adapting to the programs. So I think we are going to transfer this challenge now to the authorities in the EU institutions, but it's very important that we respond to the needs and to the expectations of the citizens which are living in these areas very much challenged by the war. Thanks a lot for your contribution. We move to another nation state, in this case is Norway, and we are very happy for your interest, Olaf, in participating in our project. You are really welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Martin, and thank you very much for the invitation to speak at today's conference. This is a timely and important discussion, and I'm quite confident that the findings of this report will be of great interest to the ministry back home in Norway. Let me begin with a short introduction to Norway and its geography. On the left on the map, you see the entire country. Norway is geographically quite large, with the distance from Oslo in the south to Tromsø in the north is roughly the same distance as Oslo to Rome. So basically the whole European continent. Our population is around 5 million in total. Along Norway's eastern border lies the country of Finnmark, which is highlighted in red in the left map. This area shares a border with Russia, which is 196 kilometers long, so then substantially shorter than the Finnish regions, for example. See that most municipalities are actually experiencing a quite sharp decline in population. The only exception is Vadsø, which you can see in green, which is the administrative center where the county regional office is located. They have a slight increase in population. If you look at Finnmark as a county, it has some quite unique challenges which is facing the region. The graph on the left shows a sharp decline in school-age children from 2015 to 2025, a trend that is expected to continue. On the right side, we see the result of this decline, a growing number of school closures across the whole region. If we then look more closely at Sør-Varanger, we can see that especially this municipality already in 2014 started to have some problems. The main reason why was the key mining project in the regions. It closed, which basically meant that private working places shut down quite fast. And we also saw that some of the sanctions against Russia after the Crimea annexation had impact on the local economy. On the graph on the left, we can see that the second sharp decline is then after the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine, where we see that it's quite sharp, this decline, and you can see that most of the cross-border trade with Russia stops. The region has then also experienced a brain drain, and we also see on the right side that we're going to see a quite aging population. There's going to be a huge increase of the people living there, which is going to pass 80 years old. So in total, the war with Russia, the Russian war against Ukraine, basically has worsened an already quite difficult situation. If we look then at the Norwegian government, we have had some responses. First of all, we have increased the tax deductions for residents in Finnmark. We have also increased the amount you can get back on your student loan in deductions. We have also introduced free kindergarten in almost all rural municipalities in Norway. We also have more targeted business loans through Innovation Norway. We have strengthened the cultural initiatives in the region, and we have 70 million Norwegian crowns given to the municipalities in Finnmark in extra industrial funds. We have also boosted the support for the University of the Arctic to establish a new center for tourism and entrepreneurship in Sør-Varanger. We also have reinforced the military garrison in the region and the cross-border guard. And notably, we can see that the tourism sector is actually quite growing and have a strong growth in the last years. Some lessons we have picked up from the Chanebo project is that it's a very timely and good report, and the added value is to highlight some shared challenges that we all face together, actually. We also see that we may have the same approach, but we also need to bring people together to face these common challenges. Targeted measures can help, but long-term growth requires a strategic cross-sectoral approach, focus on innovation, tourism, and a regional attractiveness. And this has to be coordinated at all levels of the government. A key issue is limiting, especially the Norwegian region, is the limited local capacity to manage these large-scale crises that hit the region. While Norway lacks the access to the EU structural funds, we have some investments in dual use, and we also see that maybe an increase in the infrastructure on the Finnish and Swedish side could also help enhance cross-border cooperation in the Nordic region. One area we actually are participating is the Interreg programs. That is quite successful in many ways, but we still see some room for improvement that could benefit these eastern regions. In last autumn, Norway delivered some input to Commission regarding the consultation of the future of the Interreg programs. We want to see that we increase the transferability of the projects, make it easier to use the knowledge that has been granted through different projects. We also want to link the programs even better to local and regional development, as you pointed out, Martin. We also want that the Eastern region programs should be open to new projects focusing on resilience, preparedness, and increased cooperation cooperation between these different regions that are facing the same issues. Lastly, we also hope that we can see a reduction in border obstacles to ease cooperation in these regions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Olaf. I should say that in general, all your proposals are quite well aligned with the discussions and the preliminary conclusions that we are discussing with the Channel project. So you are warmly invited to share with us the next exchanges and the most important part, which is what's come after the project is finished. Thanks a lot. And then last but not least, I would have the pleasure to give the floor to my dear colleague Klaus, who perhaps you can give us a bit more information about how the European Committee of the Regions is handling the issue of cross-border regions, what is the role of the platform, and then what we could do together in order to support our colleagues which are facing a very particular challenge that is not only their challenge. I think it's the challenge for all Europeans. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Martin. Yes, indeed. I was going to start by saying it's really challenges at the northeast external borders, and it's not challenges only of those borders. I think that's very important to keep in mind. Thank you for inviting me to this event, and congratulations to those who worked in Chanebo project. I think it shows already that there is kind of a one-size-fits-all solution. We always say there's none, but this clearly shows that when you keep involving regions and make them participate, you can develop solutions that really make sense, and you can also take into account the diversity among the regions, because it's a long border, and we've heard already that there are certain commonalities, but also diversity. So this is, I think, already a very good outcome of this project. Indeed, I think the whole situation is a new experience for the EU. We've been used so far to opening borders, to turning border regions into cross-border regions. And here suddenly we are faced with a totally new situation. But again, I think what we've heard already clearly shows that the EU and the regions can adapt to this. The Committee of the Regions, as the representative of local and regional authorities in the EU, has always made it very clear that for the current budget, but also for future budget periods, we need to take into account the golden principles of cohesion policy and of budgeting, which is shared management, involvement of local regional authorities, partnerships, and place-based approaches. Indeed, whatever is going to be presented very soon on the EU budget for the future period should also take into account to do no harm to cohesion, because all the regions, as you said, Martin, count in the EU and are part of the EU and contribute to the strength of the EU. What we are doing also in the cross-border platform that you mentioned is to bring together indeed all the different actors working on cross-border issues, organizations, EGTCs, Euro-regions, the associations, AEBR, CESCI, and MOT, and also others. And we want the platform really to be a place for exchanging experience, for bringing together regions that are in a cross-border situation, and within the regions that are involved in this project, there are some cross-border regions and others that are maybe not so much bordering other EU countries, but we want to bring them together. We also have very much welcomed that there is now the bridge for EU regulation, which allows member states to create cross-border coordination points, which should then facilitate also finding solutions for these obstacles. And we very much hope that all the member states make use of this new opportunity that is now on the table. I think I will stop here. Maybe one more thing that was also mentioned this morning, capacity. Capacity of local and regional authorities, especially in rural areas. I've been working on rural policy before, and there we've always seen this not only when it comes to peripheral or cross-border regions, but in general, the question of how can actually local regional authorities absorb all the money that is there will remain to be an important one, and that should certainly be a point that has to be treated and addressed also in the future programming period, which is sometimes not so much about money, but also about support. And I think that also platforms like the cross-border platform can be a means of providing this capacity through exchanges with other regions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Klaus, and also for reminding us about several aspects that all EU regions count, all are part of the cohesion policy, and even in the general approach that we have, this is not only for the EU, but also for our neighbors, with the idea of extending this cohesion. Also, very interesting that you mentioned that the EGTCs are not only cross-border. They can be also used for thematic aspects or for particular challenges which are affecting a small group of regions. So I don't look to anybody, but I look to all of us to consider this. And thank you also for highlighting the role of and the importance of capacities. I think increasing capacities, increasing the resilience, as you mentioned, being flexible. There were some questions in the Slido that now we are going to go through where they are saying, okay, how can we adapt the programs to the realities of the regions, your regions, but also others? I think all of us, we are in a changing world. We are not sure what's going to happen in the next months, but even we will pay attention what's happened next week when the new financial framework is presented, and then we will have some answers, and probably we will have to start to prepare even new actions in order to show what we are doing. But clearly border regions are central for the European integration. The external borders are an enormous opportunity for the whole of the EU, and when these regions are challenged, we all are challenged. I'm very happy to see the proactive approach that we have in general. I don't see people here crying and desperate. No, I think we are all together. I think it's very serious, but also it's very promising and encouraging. So I would like first of all to thank you, all you four, because you have painted, I think, a very interesting picture that gives a lot of hope to all the people who are worried about this situation. Now let's go to some of the questions. And I'm going to combine the questions that we wanted to make, plus those coming from Slido. And first of all, I would like to ask something very simple and general, but I think it's very important. Satu, how do you see the development perspectives of your regions in the current situation and looking at how we are in this moment?
Okay, thank you. I think every regions need to look at the future, even though there is no one path. By following that you will find the growth. Maybe we need to accept the situation that all regions won't be growing, but I would also underline that there should be also more than one-sided picture of less developing and starving regions. I want to believe that, for example, my region, South Karelia, won't be an empty reservation area on the front line, but more like a prosperous forerunner in green transition, which is enabling kind of sustainable solutions for worldwide challenges. I think the most important is that we look at the future, but that we understand all that the meaning of Eastern border regions. It's so important for the European security and resilience that it's essential to keep all regions involved. And emptiness is not a good strategy at all, at least when we are sharing the border with aggressor countries. For example, Meelis mentioned that border guards have underlined the importance of local people. They are observing the border regions and inform authorities if some strangers are moving in backyards. This is an example from grassroots level. So that's why we need that border regions will be populated, even though there will be different futures among them. So I believe that there will be growing innovative areas, but there is rural areas, and also in rural areas there will be a good life. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I will come to Julia. Do you think that they will need new perspectives for the development? And what is the point of view of Estonia, especially you that you have been involved in so many territorial cooperation programs, so you know well the business.
So thank you. So yeah, definitely development perspective of these regions are shaped by very different combinations of different geopolitical aspects, of different economic opportunities, social dynamics, that's for sure. So these regions face a lot of challenges, and especially due to this proximity to Russia. So it also needs a very balanced policy approach. But we also have to keep in mind that these regions possess a potential, very big potential, for cross-border cooperation, for cultural exchange, for trade, etc. So it can all boost the growth and economy and integration of those regions to other regions. So I think by leveraging the EU territorial cooperation, definitely, and strengthening the partnership not only with the neighbor, but across the EU, wider, these regions can definitely navigate through all this challenge and see definitely long-term the development opportunities and in the end contributing to all this positively overall stability. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we take good note. I would like also to ask you, Olaf, you already announced a little bit what is the perspective particularly for Finnmark. But do you think that we need to change, to adapt the development plans? What do you think are the perspectives?
It's a very good question, Martin. I think that, first of all, we have to acknowledge that some things are actually doing quite well in this region. For example, tourism is good in our regions, at least. But we also have to accept that it will take some time to reintegrate those enterprises which are in the region towards the European market, basically, and try to establish new cross-border trade in that sense and cooperation. So probably, yeah, we need to develop new strategies, but also accept that some things are actually the strengths of the regions.
Thank you very much. Then Klaus, we are going to have the European Parliament and the European Commission in the next panel. So I think Victor is taking good note also to ask them something around this. But now we have the European Committee of the Regions here. I would like to ask you, do you think that the European institutions are well prepared to adapt to the changing needs and even to probably a big shift in the development perspectives of these regions and the need of an answer, an appropriate answer from the European institutions? Do you think the institutions are really, and what the European Committee of the Regions could do to support this shift?
Yeah, I think the institutions are well prepared, and we've seen it also in the midterm review that the Commission comes up with, let's say, creative new ideas how this situation can be addressed. I think they're also well prepared because we have in the European institutions experience with involving regions, involving local players. And so we heard that Ms. von der Leyen also wants to listen even more to the regions. I think that is one of the recipes for success, also for addressing this situation and the future developments of these regions. I fully agree that these regions and the EU, together with these regions, should build on the strengths that are there. We heard also that in some of these regions there are already strong research capacities, innovation capacities, there again I come back to the EGTCs. We are talking with a European University Alliance at the moment who is preparing to become an EGTC. Also there are huge potentials, I think, for teaming up with other regions in the EU. We have the Rural Vision in the EU and the network there, which is there for exchanging experience and coming up with ideas. So yes, I think the groundwork is there, but the challenges are also there, and they will persist, and there might be new ones. There will be new ones for sure. But so far the EU has proven that it can deal with such new developments, yes.
Okay, I would continue with you and asking new questions, which I will also address to all of you. But I would like to start with you just continuing a little bit with the logic of do you think that Interreg it should remain as a comprehensive framework? I think even in these circumstances, do you think that Interreg is still the framework for to answer to the expectations of these regions affected by these challenges, taking into account that there are more challenges, and probably an Interreg will have to face all of this. We have to be prepared for in the next days or weeks to make some proposals, and it would be interesting to see how do you see that from the Committee of the Regions.
I think Interreg, while it is broad, as we heard, it's about cross-border, it's about interregional, it's about transnational, and it's even about outermost. It has its reason, and it has proven that it can do really, it can really create change and new developments with very little money. So I think the added value, EU added value of Interreg simply cannot be questioned, and therefore it should also continue. I think it makes sense to have a separate envelope, let's say, called Interreg or whatever. And at the same time, because it's such a small budget in the end, it will be important to link it to other parts of the budget and to other parts of investment policies, be it cohesion policy or any other thing that the Commission will come up with on the 16th of July. Yes, definitely we need Interreg, but we shouldn't just focus the work being done in the regions on the northeastern border only on Interreg funds.
Thank you very much. Julia, what is your vision about Interreg in this framework?
Yes, thank you. So Interreg, as it was mentioned, is so diverse. We have so many different cooperation programs, and the collaboration is even possible not with your immediate neighbor, but it can be also be with someone like who is much far away. So this is the biggest added value, and all those different practical challenges can be definitely solved in the Interreg, and even some small tiny programs, for instance in Estonia Latvia program, we don't have so big budget, but we are solving so many great and not so great obstacles, let's say, but we are very successful. And also we have Estonia Latvian Intergovernmental Commission, and also this, we have the whole synergy, and it's all complements. So I think this is very great and very good added value for this.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for highlighting the value of small and tiny actions. I remember when everybody was saying, well, Interreg is so small, that is not really, we need big projects of infrastructure. And suddenly we discovered that the small project funds, very tiny, small projects in some small Euro regions, was activating the participation of civil society. And this was the magic of Interreg, with so little money, to activate a big amount of citizens. That's why we love this small but very sexy project. Thank you very much for this contribution. Satu, what do you think about that?
Yeah, thank you. I think under these circumstances, we have to show to aggressor countries the unity of the EU's eastern border regions. Before we had several CPC programs with Russia, and now we have to change the direction and make sure that the EU's eastern border regions are still part of Interreg family. Yeah, and maybe we are hoping that we could have totally new programs which could be more concrete than current programs. I have to admit that I haven't been very happy with current programming period. CPC funds were partly transferred to Interreg programs and mostly gone. Those funds have been mostly gone away from our regions. So the loss has been maybe tens of millions euros. I really hope that part of MFF will take care of Interreg programs implemented in border regions, and taking into account those concrete needs what we have. I underline people-to-people projects as well. Those tiny projects could be very successful and important for the regions. And yes, I underline the demand of Interreg programs, but at the same time I want to underline that it can't be the whole solution to these multiple challenges, and also other programs. Of course, those are needed, and like Julia mentioned, it's very important that all these programs will be integrated well, and we have common targets and integrated perspective. Yeah, thank you.
Exactly. Yes, as Julia has reminded before, it's not only about cross-border, it's also about transnational, it's interregional. So there are, Interreg is able to, but I would like to Olaf, to see also your perspective, but if I have a Norwegian in front of me, I think I have to remind this non-cross-border, but the transnational programs. I remember Colarctic, where also the Russians were participating, and it opened an enormous expectation about how to handle climate change in the Arctic, the new transport route, the energy issue, which is another topic that I prefer not to, because we would need another several-hour session. But it's always very interesting to see the Norwegian approach, because we learn a lot. Please.
Yes. Well, I've been working in Brussels now for almost 2 years, and I have been reflecting lately, maybe in this debate, as Klaus were discussing, on the new budget. Is maybe Interreg a bit undervalued in Brussels? That we actually don't talk enough about how efficient the small programs actually are. You see that we have quite small projects which are very much efficient, which are actually answering the local needs. If we then actually manage to just adjust the programs a little bit, so they are more adapted to local and regional needs. For example, we see that in, for example, our northern regions, we don't have the same challenges as the southern ones. We basically can then have the same aims for all the programs. It has to be better closely linked to what actually the need of the programs. Secondly, I touched upon it in my introduction, is that we would like to see the transferability, because there is a lot of projects between the different programs. It's so many good projects which are really not communicated enough to other programs, basically. So say that, for example, it's a very good project in Estonia. It's very easy for a Norwegian region to learn from it. Or if we have a smart project, it increased the cooperation so much. But it takes some time to see the actual benefits from it.
Thank you very much. Yes, but we also agree that probably Interreg together with Erasmus is probably the best value for money that we can find in the European, from different perspectives, the amount of citizens which are involved, regions, the territories, etc. Really excellent programs. And we cannot imagine right now European Union without Interreg. Let's see next week. Probably the money will reduce. I would insist on the need to increase the budget for Interreg, because every euro that you invest in Interreg, you're investing in Europe. And you will get a return which is much higher. But the problem is that sometimes it's very difficult to communicate. Maybe these new challenges make possible that we can communicate a bit better about that. I will go now for my last question, because we have a few minutes, and then I would like to ask you, well, do you find the evidence which is produced by ESPON is valuable? It's useful to even to shape this, because we are shaping the concept of resilience. Is something that came to our jargon very recently, and we are still on it. And we think that ESPON is one of the best instruments. But I would like to know your opinion. I will also start with Klaus. What do you think? Is this evidence valuable? Do you think it's useful?
Absolutely. I mean, to see all the data put together and to really have them collected with the cooperation and the input from the regions and the local players themselves, that's absolutely valuable. I think one of the things that we often hear at the European level is, yes, it's all nice, but we don't have the data. And it's clear that seeing also the differences between the regions and not just saying, okay, there's one big border and there must be one problem, I think this is absolutely extremely useful.
Thank you very much. Olaf, I will ask you the same. What is your...
I think Klaus touched upon it, but of course we have some experience from the Nordic cooperation. We have the Norwegian, which is basically a research institute in Stockholm, which produces a lot of material, a bit like ESPON. And as Klaus said, we need good data actually to develop good policies. So it's a bit like Eurostat. Without Eurostat, you really can't deliver on anything. So ESPON is basically the regional development's Eurostat in that sense.
I think our colleagues from ESPON, which are around, will be very happy to listen to that. Julia, what is your experience so far being a partner of the project?
Yes, thank you. So first of all, I think it was a very great platform to exchange the views. We came all together. We had the possibility to highlight these issues, the challenges, and yeah, it also helped to launch other initiatives, as I mentioned before. Now we are having as well this Baltics Catching Up the Regions, supported by European Commission and World Bank. We also ended with the Regio Silence project, supported by Interreg Europe. So, and all this gave us the possibility to exchange the thoughts, and I think this is the biggest added value.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Satu, do you have the chance to make the closing?
Okay. Yes, thank you. Yes, this project has been very, very valuable for us. For example, in my region, we are planning the new regional development strategies, and we will definitely utilize this information. And it's always valuable to have also this comparative information from other countries. And I would like to underline the role of this joint operation that Sanebo has gathered local and national authorities together. We don't have this kind of forum, and maybe we should have in the future. So I'm looking forward to the next steps and conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. I think we have a lot of food for thought, many takeaways, and even to continue in the last phases of this Chanevo project, this has been extremely valuable. And for those who are connected online, thank you for your attention, but don't forget that we still have another session in the next 15 minutes where we are going to have the European Commission, we are going to have the European Parliament, we are going to sum up and to get some conclusions that are going to be extremely important for the regions which are taking part in this project. So thanks a lot to everybody for your participation and attention, and see you in some minutes. Thanks. Bye. Dear participants in this high-level event, we are back for the third session, in which we are going to pay a look to the pathways forward, some conclusions, some takeaways, but especially to listen to European institutions to react to this very interesting and crucial project. So I have the pleasure to share this moderation with my colleague Victor Siderowski from ESPON, and now I will pass the floor to Victor.
Many thanks, Martin, and welcome, dear panelists. We say we would like to gather crème de la crème of the minds and intelligence, and we do hope this is exactly the case that we succeeded with. So we have three very important, very eminent persons with us today. We have Edis Ostrovskis, who is with DG Regio, and Edis has had not only a background with policy making, but also with research. So you're economist, and you have also had professional experience in Big Four, followed by work for European Parliament and now European Commission. And your focus lies with the implementation of the regional policy in the regions bordering Russia and Belarus. So, Edis, welcome. Ignacio Sanchez Amor, European Parliament, and group of the Progressive Alliance of Socialists and Democrats. You have had extensive experience with border matters, being a part of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, Subcommittee on Human Rights, also part of the delegation to the EU-Turkey Joint Parliamentary Committee, also delegations for relations with Belarus, Central Asia. You have also passed with the OECD. So very glad to having you with us today. And last but not least, Daniel Wöll. We are back to the Commission, but this time it's DG Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion. You are head of unit. And not by coincidence, Finland, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania.
Now the time to listen to our guests. So I would like to invite Edis Ostrovskis to make the first statement. Please go ahead.
Great to be here. Thank you for the excellent insights we got today. Eastern border is our border. It's European border. That has been the message of the Executive Vice President, Mr. Fito. That was the message that he delivered in Finland, in Latvia, Estonia, and most recently in Poland. In Finland, in Latvia, Estonia, and most recently in Poland, where the high-level conference on Eastern border regions took place. We heard today, and we know too well, that Eastern border regions are facing an unprecedented geopolitical shift, and seen at least in the last 3 decades. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine has brought these regions and member states hybrid threats, worsening investment climate, difficulties to access capital, loss of tourists, transit volumes, disruptions to the supply chains, need for increased defense spending, putting national budgets on strain, and high inflation, making, of course, for the regions also difficult to co-finance the projects. In addition, we know that these regions were experiencing difficulties before, for example, depopulating, some even 2% on average losing their population, having slower economic growth, some even having 3 times lower GDP per capita than other on the EU average. So we know that the problems are diverse and the challenges are diverse. And it's clear that this demands a comprehensive action. So consequently, Executive Vice President Mr. Fito launched a pact for Eastern border regions last week in Poland, Białowieża. And his goal is to increase the resilience of the Eastern border regions. It will serve as a roadmap for addressing the specific challenges faced by these regions, with tailor-made solutions offering a clear vision for their support at the EU level. The proposed initiative will focus on several areas such as actions for physical and economic security, bringing back business confidence, strategic reorientation, rebranding, supporting a sense of security of the people. These challenges require a coordinated approach. Thus, comprehensive is that I would use today quite often when asked. And it has to be at regional and national level, of course, as well. To be reminded that our duty is to ensure that the people in these regions feel safe, protected, and supported with opportunities for good jobs, quality education and services, and of course, housing. All in all, our goal is to guarantee that all our citizens have the right to stay in places that they call home.
Thank you very much. Now we will pass the floor to Ignacio Sánchez-Amor. Nacho, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Martin, for this kind invitation that allows me to come back to my long-standing experience in border issues. When I talk about the subject I would like to convey to you today, I have to come back to the pre-conflict situation in the eastern border, because I'm talking about our intellectual elaboration with three resolutions that I launched in the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly: enhancing cross-border cooperation policies in post-conflict scenarios, the year 12, the cooperative phase in post-conflict borders, new tools and new actors for a broader view of a conflict cycle, and the role of local and regional authorities in post-conflict rehabilitation scenarios. It was not prophetic, but having my experience in Central Asia and other places, this happened before Crimea, meaning, but I think it's completely useful now. This is not to remedy, this is to launch our view to the future. We don't know if it's going to be a far future or not, but at a certain point we have to resume, after the war, we have to resume the logic of a cooperative border. And these things that we wrote and we launched in these years, it could be of use under this principle. A conflict between neighbors does not end with a safe border, but with a cooperative border. This is the key issue that I would like to. We have to extend the idea that what tools and what new actors they could create this cooperative phase with the idea of preventing future conflicts. Because as you know, the logic of Europe is exactly that. The cross-border cooperation has been linked to the core idea of the European Union because there were conflicts among neighbors, and the idea that the cross-border cooperation could be a kind of legitimation for the whole project, a kind of healing area of the tensions of the war. Then the idea is the cross-border policies has to be part of the post-conflict scenario. This is the key issue I would like to convey to you all and to the colleagues. I know for sure that now it's difficult to foresee what could happen, but I assure you, as happened in Europe, as happened in our past, at a certain moment we have to resume the logic of the cooperative border, and it's better to be prepared, knowing that the conditions are going to be different, that probably there are a lot of reluctance to overcome, but that's better to be intellectually prepared for this phase. Thank you.
That's very interesting, because at the end of the day, at least in our continent, most borders are the result of conflicts, and even many conflicts or poly-conflicts. And we like to say that borders are the scars of history. And on this, healing these scars is how we have been able to build up the European Union as we understand it now, which is a multi-level governance process with a lot of interactions and cooperation. I love this view, but of course, as Edix has said before, the question is that now we have a big challenge with a lot of disruptions, with the failure of tourism and even probably a big depression of the business sector. So, but we need new opportunities. So, well, let's see. We have a vision from DG EMPEL, but also for someone that is also very much concentrated on this territory. So you know, I think you have a privileged perspective, Daniel. So What do you think?
No, thank you. Thank you for the kind invitation. Thank you for having me. And indeed, all these developments that have been outlined by Ignacio have a very clear impact on people. And I'll try to elaborate a bit on that. And also the depopulation, as you can see on this graph, really impacts everything there. And what we're trying to do is that the people in the regions have what they need. They have the adequate skills, employment, social services to support the resilience and preparedness there. And we do that because we believe social fairness has a strong regional dimension, and that it helps the local authorities if they cooperate, if they exchange good practices, and if they work closely together. And I mean, this is of course not only my view. President von der Leyen has visited Lappeenranta in Finland, the border crossing point with Russia, and made very strong statements about the importance of these areas for Europe as a whole. So these findings of this project we consider very relevant. There are some key areas that are notably of interest to us, like economic development, new opportunities for job cohesion, social cohesion, regional development, security and defense. But as Edis also said, I mean, this obviously all needs to be looked at together. We need a comprehensive approach. We need to look at the different dimensions of that. And we need to look at both policies and funds. I think this is very important that we look at all the tools that we have at our disposal. As you know, also DG Employment has, with the European Social Fund, a high funding dimension in the cohesion policy, 100 billion overall. And I think we should bring all this to the table and do the best what we can with that. So just as we have also talked about the economic impact, just to give you one idea, here you see the imports from Russia to Finland, Estonia, Latvia, how immensely they have dropped after the beginning of the war in Ukraine. So I think this graph in one picture shows a lot. It shows the huge impact and also the huge impact on the people there, on the employment, on the tourism in the region. So these regions have to really now build on their strengths and look for also possible new opportunities in tourism, but also in education, cooperation. I'll talk about this in a minute. And I think for all this, we also need, by the way, adequate transport systems, so that in these more sparsely populated regions, people can get to where they need, also to get social services. And we now have, together with DG Klima, the Social Climate Fund, where we are implementing new ideas. On-demand transport, for example, a lot for these outer regions. But also we are trying to extend these existing routes to make transport happen. So what do we think in terms of human capital, skills and social services? I mean, as I mentioned, the population is aging. You can also see it here. So the lighthouses are the younger parts, but they're not in the border regions, unfortunately. It's further innovation and growth. Beyond that, of course, also childcare, support to families is essential. But I would like to conclude by saying once again, I think it's key we keep the people dimension at the heart of our policies. That the people living in these regions, they rightly have some concerns, some considerations about their future, but that we very much keep this in mind, keep them close to our policies. Visit these regions. I've had the privilege to go there a couple of times, and it's really striking what you see there, and it was really among my most interesting experience in over 16 years of career experience at the Commission. And we also do a lot as a Commission, as DG Employment as a whole. So we have the anti-poverty strategy coming out next year, the affordable housing plan. I think these are strategies that will also have a regional dimension, will also benefit these regions. And right now, we're having a public consultation on the European Pillar of Social Rights to revise our strategic framework. The consultation is still open. So please all feel free to contribute and chip in. And I thank you for your attention, because I think really the eastern border regions are doing a great job for the whole of the EU.
Thank you very much, and thanks on behalf of the border regions for your appreciation of their commitment. Gentlemen representing the Commission, I can't resist a question about the Eastern Regions Pact in Seoul. Would you be able to disclose a bit more details about what in fact this pact is or is going to be? Is it a political manifesto, or is it a roadmap, or is it just a compilation of ideas, or is it going to lead to some, well, more operational stage with program, funding, any other measures that alleviate the situation of people and businesses in these border regions? Could you perhaps elaborate a little bit from, the cuisine of designing the pact, please?
I wouldn't like to disappoint you, of course. So I would say this cohesion policy is powerful, and it's even more powerful when implemented together with other policies. For example, Agri leader or other measures are like RRF, a social climate fund that Daniel mentioned. But I think that something that needs to be differentiated is what can be done now and what is a longer-term perspective, thinking about the next multi-annual financial framework. And it has been mentioned already today, but we as a policy DG, funding DG for cohesion policy, we have done a lot already. For example, the midterm review legislative package that most immediately addresses very concretely the eastern border regions and their needs. And we hope, of course, for the swift adoption of that legislation. So indeed, this is what I have to say now.
Daniel, please.
Just to briefly add, straight from the kitchen, as you were interested to get some news. No, and indeed, we of course have the ambition to make this operational, to make this concrete, to also do this jointly with the regions concerned. I think that's really of importance and of our interest. And from our side, to also have a strong peoples and social dimension. I outlined some of the areas that I think are really important for the border regions, from skills to working with education and entrepreneurs more closely, to ensuring public service and also adequate public transport and other services like childcare. So I think there's a lot we have. And it will also be of interest for us, as for many of you, to see the MFF proposals coming out very soon. And then I hope we can, in the swift time frame that we have, put something together very actionable and concrete that helps us advance together on this path.
Thank you. Nacho, your take on this, because apparently the Parliament should be part of this entire configuration for the pact itself, also to represent the opinion of the members in how the pact should be designed and then operationalized.
Well, everything is suspended, but there is a lot of fear about if there is no policy of having new own resources, who is going to pay the security and defense money that we are committed to do? Is cohesion policy or is agriculture? There are not many other big purses in the budget. And this is the alarm. And the alarm coming from our colleagues dealing with cohesion policies, meaning Committee of Regions, and the defense.
Martin, do you also have the same view that, this is a zero-sum game? So, someone is going to lose on it.
Absolutely.
And someone is going to gain.
Absolutely. I'm a pathologic optimist because it's the only way to survive in ABR. We are dealing with cross-border issues every day, getting obstacles and looking at how people are always claiming that they would like to have the same services than Vienna, Berlin, or Madrid. And I'm also a pathologic optimist about the EU. I think we are so privileged to be in one of the best constructions that the human beings are made for the mutual convivence. And even there are a lot of regions all over the world that they are looking at the EU, what we are doing. So we have a stake with our citizens in the EU. Also, we have a responsibility towards all the messages we have been throwing in the last 80 years. So many people are looking at us. So in this case, I think there has to be a very responsible exercise by the European institutions And I think the European Parliament has a pivotal role there, because at the end of the day, you are the voice of the citizens, and you have the possibility to make law. So I would not say, Nacho, we need to multiply the budget of the EU per 10 times, let's say, if you want to have the defense that they are presenting. So, but please don't touch cohesion.
But that is a political struggle.
Yeah.
Meaning the countries and the regions and the organizations dealing with cross-border cooperation, cohesion in general, has to activate, has to come to Brussels, has to make the lobby with the European Parliament, because the members linked to, we have a committee on REGI, but we have a new committee on security and defense. And this is the tension we have to deal with in the coming months. And I think one of the solutions is to really have a new policy on resources and to look for more money. We are doing. But in the meantime, this is not going to be easy with the member states. In the meantime, the temptation is, let's take money from the two big policies that we have, is cohesion or agriculture.
Gentlemen, again, I will be sort of a provocative here, but we probably are going to see the national and regional partnership plans for the respective countries issued together with the new legislative proposals, the 16th of July or thereafter. Do you see any risk that if the national capitals are to dispose of certain, amount of money and the policy packages, would it be tempting for them to perhaps disregard the interests of their border regions, which also in the national perspectives could be regarded as, in quota, peripheral? And there might be a temptation again that they will fund the competitiveness hubs and engines in the respective countries. Or how, from the Commission perspective, you see the positioning of border regions in the future MFF, also in light of the Eastern Regions Pact? Difficult question, I think, but you might also reflect on it in the way you wish.
You want to start, shall I?
One. Allows us to pass the message, which is again, border regions are important. That's our border. That's European border. So this impetus will not disappear in Commission's eyes. The resilience of those regions is a priority and has been demonstrated by our Executive Vice President, and it will be further demonstrated with the pact, which we aim to. Which we aim to adopt by end of the year. And I would pass then to Daniel.
Okay. I don't need to use the mic again. So no, I can just fully go along. I think the border regions are in a challenging situation, as I've also demonstrated on the graphs. But on the other hand, they're also in a good position, because I think anyone in Europe by now, at least any key decision leader in Brussels, has become acquainted with this issue closely in the last years. And I mean, the border regions have been doing a good job. Also my Director General, Mario Nava, has been to South Karelia, said to kindly authorities discuss exchange also across borders. So authorities discuss exchange also across borders. So I'm optimistic in this regard. I think the issue is too important to be not seen sufficiently.
I would like maybe to touch upon one aspect that we decided not to give the prominent attention in the Chernobyl study, namely that there might be a development involving potentially military conflict, and there is a matter of, well, civil protection. So apart, of course, from all the defense mechanisms, we also have the potential to capitalize on the interest and already mobilized local and regional communities. We've heard in the past sessions that the people are concerned, but they are also motivated, mobilized, and organized. How do you see also this possibility on involving the communities in joint actions for, well, organizing fire prevention, handling of explosives, local water distribution, drinking water production. Is it something that from the Parliament perspective, from the Commission perspective, could be also placed on the agenda to just preemptively prepare and endow the local communities with this sort of, measures? Nacho, would you like to start?
Yeah, listen, let me only add a hint on the other question of the centralization of the cohesion policy. The temptation for every government is to put the money where the people is, where the people are, meaning the border region is less populated, less economic active, less appealing for the public money. And for that reason, when the cohesion policy comes to Brussels more distributed, this is a guarantee for regions and for border regions. If not, it's again another struggle with your capital to call the attention about the regions in which there are not only less inhabitants but less voters. And this is the key question. On the issue of security, the problem with the border region with a space which we have a conflict is the logic of the conflict is to the link, meaning we have to create means to mobilize and to move troops and tanks and trains inside Europe, but on the contrary, we have to create the condition not to have an easy entrance in our political and geographical space from others, meaning the border region has the risk to be a kind of buffer zone without a proper link, because these physical links could be used in a conflict. And this is another thing we have to be aware. I'm very sorry. I'm optimistic like Martin, but the things are as they are, and we are risking that kind of logic. Yes.
Yes.
I mean, what you're touching upon, if I understand you well, is like the general more question of preparedness, and the Executive Vice President Minzato, who's also in charge of our Director General, is also in charge of preparedness in the Commission, and there's a lot happening at EU level with a comprehensive preparedness strategy. But of course also immensely in these border regions and in these countries bordering Russia. And I mean, Finland has a very strong tradition there, but also other countries like Latvia is now shifting cohesion policy funding, aiming to shift it to shelters, to other more civil protection related means. So I think this is very much seen there, and it's already very much happening. I mean, it's a process, of course. An ongoing process, but I think this is indeed the direction these countries are progressing. And yeah, what can I say? It's always good to be prepared.
If I may use words of a certain representative of the border, one of the border regions, eastern border. No safety, no people, no safety. You can read it from the other side. You still have people in there. So it's very much in the center, as Daniel already said. So, of course, these regions are on the front line. And when you're faced as a country, coming back to maybe previous question, when you're faced of the threat of annihilation and occupation, you will likely act, and they are acting. For example, Estonia is shifting 200 million euros in their cohesion policy envelope to defense. And this was certainly a welcome action, and we hope to see that more. And what I would like to still say is that it's very much recognized, and also by us, that this is more permanent situation than a temporary one. So this is also one of the big aspects of the pact that we have started and we are working on. Having this long-term policy funding tools that we have. Thank you.
Well, I would like also to ask you if you have known more about the Chanevo project, but if not, I would like to give you some clues of what are the conclusions, because I have to tell you a gossip. It's not that easy. Yeah, to have common conclusions where we have so different partners and where the situation is a little bit dramatic. when we look a little bit, taking out my optimistic perspective. Actually, I was in any case very impressed that the three of you have mentioned some of the topic that we were discussing this morning as a kind of conclusions. We're still reflecting on the preliminary conclusions. But then we have the risk that these territories are going to be empty. Not sure what you said. If suddenly we have to convert them into buffer zones, then they will become empty. Young people will not want to stay there, studying, making a family, if you see all the time the troops coming in and out. Then we have a big challenge even on the infrastructure that have been built in the last years, because I was checking now, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, in the following 10 years, there were 30 Euroregions created at the borders with the former Iron Curtain. 30 Euroregions. One of them in 1991 in Poland. So, and then I remember when we were analyzing how was the infrastructure, I said, well, in these countries in the eastern part of Europe, most of the infrastructure were parallel to the border because the border was really a buffer zone. How many efforts we have made in these 30, 35 years to remove all of that, and now we have to come back? Probably, yes. But then we have a big risk of that these sparsely populated areas will become empty. And I think thinking of the post-conflict, this adds an enormous challenge. Then, of course, I don't talk about the expectations of the citizens, the families, the minorities which are working on these areas, the big depression of those who really, I'm thinking of my colleagues from Finland, that they, with the Republic of Karelia, how many times, Johannes, we have gone to Viborg and here and there was a real tissue for cooperation that now is spoiled. So we need specific measures, and it's not only about Interreg. We need the specific measures from the national level, the mainstreaming programs of the EU, etc. But if we are talking about territories where the value of these territories in terms of electoral power drops, how can we ask? Do we need a positive discrimination of these territories? And a last combined questions would be, do we need a completely different approach to these territories than to the rest of Europe when we talk in terms of cohesion? What do you think about?
Well, in Spain, we have an electoral system that allows the less populated provinces to have more representation than the proportional one. And but this is not the logic of the capitals, and even of the big capital. Meaning, what is the function of the border region with Russia? It's security. It's security driven, inevitably. And then probably we have to wait for another period to try to reconstruct and to resume things. But the question is that the tissue, as you say, has not been damaged forever. We have to try to keep some instance, some institutional structures thinking about the future. If not, there are already depopulated, they are going to be more depopulated because this is like the Spaniard we did in America. In Spain, we don't have forest, but in America there were jungles. When we build a fortress, it's to clean completely the forest or the jungle around the fortress. And this is the logic of the security, meaning to create conditions for the linking and for not having easy connections with the conflict. This is a risk that has to be evaluated and try to keep as, let's say, as solid as possible the institutional framework that we had in the past, and maybe it's going to be reconstructed in the future.
Daniel, is it possible to marry a fire with water? Because, the Eastern Regions Pact, all the efforts by the Commission, you also named yourselves affordable housing actions, harnessing talent platform, all the different measures, packages, proposals by the Commission, they may not come on a fertile ground in case we have this primacy of security. And also, I think colleagues and Johannes, who was referred to many times during the day, mentioned at several occasions that there is a natural also, space use conflict between, for instance, production of green energy in the border regions and defense and security purposes, and the latter prevail, of course. They override any other functions of the space of the local and regional development. Do you see a certain risk that the pact and all the initiatives may remain very nice ideas, but they will never materialize in fact? And it may lead also to the, I would say, deflation of confidence in the European project in those specific territories, also bearing in mind fake news, misinformation, information campaigns, you know, based on false grounds and so on.
First of all, thanks again for highlighting the personal situation of the people there. I think this is really key. I mean, this situation obviously has a psychological impact and toll. And I don't want to get too personal, but I come from Lower Bavaria, close to the Bavarian forest, close to the Czech border. So I remember well the impact a border simply has on a region and on the people there. And I think this should never be neglected. So I think this is exactly the reason why we are trying to do these specific measures. Because I think for this situation, which is very need to adjust them to the needs there, then I think we can get a long way. And as I said, I think the issue is too important to be ignored. And I'm confident that we will have some successes there and that we'll get the confidence and retain the confidence of the people.
Yes, thanks. I will amplify what Daniel already said. We are here for the regions. We are here for the border regions. You are not alone. We have the tools. We're working on them. And in fact, we are very much in the regions. A big part of my team is today in Latgale, Latvia. So I would also say that they're not a buffer zone. They are, again, part of eastern border area, which we want to develop very much to have a strong, resilient population there, strong local economies that can withstand any shocks or difficulties that might come their way.
If you say about the comprehensive approach, and I think this word reverberated on several times, do you see any potential opportunity for a dedicated Interreg program for these regions? In the earlier sessions, we heard the partners came together for the first time. They learned. They actually were able to speak. Different levels, local, regional, national, they would like to continue working together. Of course, they may do it using their own capacities, but the Interreg program facilitates that, magnifies the cooperation. Also, there is apparently many commonalities between these border regions. Would it be a solution, or maybe these thoughts are going too far at the moment?
Well, birds of feathers stick together, right? Indeed, we agree with what you stated. The cooperation has tremendous benefits. Thank you.
We're just trying to note if there are any questions through Slido, as we don't see them yet. Meanwhile, Nacho?
Why not? Meaning, Europe has to conduct a policy in the borders. Not only a cross-border policies, meaning there are borders in which there are no conditions for cross-border activity, but you have to conduct a territorial policy on the border regions. It could be Interreg, and for that reason probably it has to be, I'm not very familiar now with the technicalities of Interreg. Many years ago I was, but not now. But probably this is the thing. Let's have a policy for the border regions where there are no conditions for the cross-border policies.
Martin? Well, I like it. I would like more, but it's even for us was difficult, different stakeholders to agree which type, because actually these regions, they have lost many cross-border cooperation programs that have been suspended for the participation of Russia, but even some transnational ones. So one option would be to have a specific program for these regions, which is not exactly about cross-border cooperation, but it's about their cooperation and to keep them in the whole story of territorial cooperation in Europe. This is what we are pushing, but listening very carefully to the institutions, the stakeholders and the national states, and especially those who are managing the programs to see what's possible, what is not, etc. And here I would like to mention also, there are opportunities even in this. When they are talking about defense, it's not only about tanks, and it's also about development of software. It's about smart defense, intelligence, and perhaps there is a new opportunity for small and medium-sized enterprises, because we should not forget the businesses in these regions, which are key. So it's not only Interreg, as we said before, it's also the mainstreaming policies. The 10T, they have a challenge to shift a little bit. And DG Empel, just your presence here is also very, very revealing and stimulating, and even your words. So I think we need more communication. But do you think this is an approach? Do you think we can perhaps a pilot action through Interreg in order to penetrate, sorry for the word, in the different mainstreaming policies?
I pass the floor to the Commission. I think it's better prepared than myself to know if this is possible. My idea is more general and political.
Okay. Want to follow up on Interreg?
Indeed, as I mentioned before on the cooperation, that's certainly very much needed, and we see, for example, in the other regions, how shifting, say, the tourism flows that came from Russia mostly, that they are trying to get it from other regions. You have it's the opportunities that count, and we and the regions need to work on them. And I believe regions know already how it's to be done.
Just to very briefly add, I think one of the very positive things I've seen is the increased cooperation between, for example, the Finnish and the Baltic authorities. This has really increased in recent times, and I think this is a very good sign now.
This is the moment of need, in fact. And if I may also recall what within ESPON we discussed last week at our ESPON conference in Gdańsk about the exaptive territorial resilience, was that Europe shall not mimic the other global superpowers, but work and capitalize on the assets that already exist. And we see also one question here coming from Slido that clearly displays that Southeast Finland is one of world's leading paper and pulp industry areas. So we should find a way to really amplify the possibilities related with that development, because this is the business development that has been traditional. It also has a lot of perspectives in that area and also in Europe. So we also received question about, and I think this is from particularly probably for you, Edis, about, well, the debates, Latgale aluksne.
I see the one on Finland, but I think on buffer zone we already replied. Green, right? There is no buffer zone. And yes, indeed, that's from my colleague. We had an excellent event with World Bank, which we are working extensively with on the border regions in 3 Baltic states. And indeed, it's one of those great events we had, which was on also cooperation, and we saw that it is extremely that would be the main takeaway right away.
Gentlemen, we need to be wrapping up, and as the ESPON program, we are happy to see that the project results, the Channable project results, are insightful for you also, working with European policies. And you see the practical use of these results also in your day-to-day policy making. The Channable study results, as mentioned, will be soon available on the ESPON website. And also to the audience, I kindly advise you to go and study the results, because they are really interesting. And we do hope that what we started in this project is a beginning of a very nice journey with many partners on board, not least also with the Commission and the Parliament, the European Committee of the Regions, the European Association of European Border Regions. and also with many of you representing the local and regional authorities in the border regions and beyond. So thank you for being with us. Martin, thanks for excellent moderation of yours as well. Gentlemen, many thanks for your very good and constructive ideas that you shared with us in this panel. And stay tuned for further ESPON events that are definitely coming up. Thank you again.